We will come through this as we have through other troubles. There is a strength in us that we ourselves have not yet recognized. And one day, we will find a place in the world for our people again. I tell everyone here, that is how it will be.
I come from Obima. There's a lot of hatred I've built up towards the place. Because people there, they seem to not realize what alcohol is doing to our people. I'm still young, and I want more out of life than what I've had in the past 8 years. I've been drinking since I was 12, dropped out of school because of alcohol. When I turned 16, I went to jail. And being in jail, I grew a bitterness. I was very defensive towards people. Last year, I was put away for 18 months. And I'm just getting out. And I'm nervous about being on my own. At times, like, I'm so confused, I don't know where to turn to.
Our people, the original owners of the land, have been displaced by the newcomers and for many generations have been forced to live in an environment of self-destruction and despair. Laws in the Indian Act have robbed generations of their identity and culture. We are now living the horrifying results of a long chapter of racism, oppression, rejection, betrayal, and of great loss. Thousands of our people live in the cities of our country and are not welcome there, nor are they welcome at home. They live in the shadow of two worlds.
Apple wine stole my brother from those he loved the most. I see him almost everywhere, looking like a ghost. I asked about his failing health, he says, oh, I feel fine. But could you spare $1 for a taste of apple wine? You know, my brother drank himself through many kinds of bars. Lived on dreams and empty schemes of owning fancy cars. When the dealer came to him, he signed upon the line.
What did I learn about drinking from my dad? I learned to drink, get drunk, pass out. That's what I learned from my grandfather also. And what did the first Indians learn about alcohol from the first white men? It was, here, have more booze so we can get your land. Here, have more booze so that we can get your woman. Here, have more booze so that we can get your furs. You know, drink, you get drunk, and we'll take whatever you have. So basically, that's the way our forefathers learned to drink. That's the way I think it's continued for a long time.
Poundmakers Lodge is located in St.Albert, just north of Edmonton in Alberta. It was created for our people, lost in a world of alcohol and drugs. Here, they can begin to heal with the help of their own people and regain a sense of belonging to traditions they have been deprived of for so long.
We're more than just bows and arrows. We've got a rich tradition, we've got a rich history, we've got a lot of things to be proud about in our culture.
Since 1982,
all kinds of traditions.
Pat Shirt has been the director of Poundmakers Lodge, founded by his brother Eric in 1973.
Have
He is
served
35
us
years
really
old.
well and that have
He
really
himself
made
has
us
known the
strong
destructive world of
peoples in the
alcohol
past.
and
those are
has
some of the
refrained
things
from
that we're
drinking for
trying to
the past
regain
13
here. So
years.
those are some of the values that we're trying to look at here, you know, the caring, the sharing, the kindness, and the being good to one another.
Most people come to Poundmakers Lodge through referrals from community alcoholism programs, prisons, shelters, doctors, and social workers. The door is open to everyone as long as they have been sober for 48 hours before entering the lodge. Their stay will last 30 days. When they leave, Poundmaker will help them to establish contacts for support.
When I was 9, my father committed suicide, and he committed suicide by an overdose of pills. Me, my brother, and my sister were all asleep in the same bed as mother, and my mom wanted my dad to come to bed, but he wouldn't. So we just left them. Then when mom woke up to ask dad to come to bed, she found him sitting on a chair, bent over, dead. We went to the funeral. For some reason, other people seen the body, but me, I hated to see it, because I knew that my favorite person on earth was dead. And to this day, still makes me mad why he had to commit suicide. Because now, I always feel like no one really cares about me no more. I don't have no one to talk to now. Because we always used to share our feelings every time he was sober.
Alcohol was introduced by the early European explorers and fur traders, not as a social drink, but as a poison. As the government came into being, so did its policy of de-Indianizing the people. All traditions and rituals were banned. By the mid-1800s, children were being forced into mission and residential schools. They were forbidden from speaking their language for the next 100 years. Here at Poundmakers Lodge, our people have a chance to look at what has happened in the past. They begin to grow free from alcohol and drugs and can commence to recover their lives.
And it's only a beginning, you know, because I know one of the things that I had to do in a sense of my own recovery is finding out more about myself and finding out more about my own roots, so to speak.
When you were younger, did you drink?
I think I was in grade 6 when I passed out in class. It hurt my family, it hurt me. You know, I got into 5 car accidents where I rolled, you know, got kicked out of 3 high schools, ended up in a whole bunch of jails and that sort of thing, just because of my drinking.
I took my first drink when I was 3.5, and then after that, I liked it a whole bunch. And so every time my dad and them would have a party over at our place, we'd always sneak out a couple of bottles. That was when I first started. And then after that, just last year, I started to get into heavy stuff, drugs, marijuana, cocaine, you name it, I did it. I guess it was just to get the problems out of my way. But after I did it, they didn't help me out. And then it was just last Friday, I planned on committing suicide. I was over at the tracks and then the train was coming. And then I jumped off the track to wait until the train got a little closer. And just as soon as I was about to jump, I thought, what's this gonna do? It isn't gonna solve nothing. Since I've told my primary group about what happened, they've come a long way to help me. And so has Poundmakers Lodge.
10 years ago, we had the alcoholic coming in. He was 35, 40 years old. Nowadays, the average age of the alcoholics coming here is 25. And that makes it more dangerous, I think, in a sense of looking at our native community, is because the kids are starting to drink and use alcohol much younger.
I started going to foster homes when I was about 10 years old. I can't remember exactly how many, because it was when I was that young. They were moving me so much, eh? Like there wasn't anything steady. It was just like you lay over for a couple of weeks and then you move again, eh? There was quite a few.
I was going to school on a school bus, and I was sitting up in front talking to a bus driver. I heard like a news flash, eh? There was a murder-suicide in my reserve. And they gave the names of my parents. And my sisters were witness to that too. While my mom was getting beat with a rifle stock, they were hiding under their bed. And my dad passed out. When he woke up in the morning, he realized what he'd done and he went and strung himself up. I was 12 years old at that time. And I started yelling and screaming. And I threw a fit. And I told them I wanted to go home. I wanted to go to the funeral. Social worker, their system, I don't know. They said no, I couldn't go. I never trusted anything of authority after that.
So I just rebelled. The more I rebelled, the worse I got. Drank, did drugs. Just got more into violence and that. Started doing all my times here. My last bits have been all violent charges. I never really had anybody I could talk to, eh? Till I came here, and then everybody was so open, so caring, and they share, eh? Yeah, I made quite a few friends here.
We're praying for the loved ones who left at home, the elders.
I would like them to go back to Cut Knife Hill, to the place where the Crees can feel proud again. Tell them to gather the sweetgrass, to watch the sun as it rises and sets, and to hear the wind whisper in the lodge poles. Tell them to sit in the firelight and sing our songs and retell the old stories, because that is how we here will be thinking of them. We are locked away, but there are no chains or walls that can lock away our hearts or our thoughts. In that way, we will always be with them.
Most Indians don't want to be unemployed. I do know that most Indians don't want to have a lot of violence and a lot of violent deaths and a lot of accidents. I know that Indians don't want a lot of fetal alcohol syndromes, but they have the most. I know that Indians don't want to die an early death, but they do die an early death. I know that Indians don't want poor housing. I know that Indians don't want to be on welfare, but once they become alcoholic, that's where they are.
Alcohol is not the only poison. Paint thinner, cleaning fluids, hairspray, cooking spray, antifreeze, gasoline and glue are just part of an unimaginable variety of substances consumed.
And that's part of it now. You know, you have a harder time. You know, we didn't have the cocaine, we didn't have the heroin, we didn't have the hashies and the marijuana, and that's now on our reserves. What we had was the vanilla extract and shaving lotion. And now they've got more too. Of course, they got the Lysol.
Yeah.
He thought he was laughing from the bottle at his fears, but he knows that he was running as he wasted through the years. The question is, my brother John, you sure you're feeling fine? Try your apples from the tree before they turn to wine. Apple wine just fills the belly, but it leaves an empty soul. Going up you feel so warm, coming down it leaves you cold. Now and then you think of when the way your spirit died. Some call it accidental, some call it suicide.
My family, you know, they're Métis, they were struggling, and it was tough times for our family, but we were all together. I don't know why that happened. Like, I was taken away along with my brothers and one sister. Just one day, a welfare car pulled up, and that was the last of the family. It just disintegrated. There was no family after that, and that was about 1956.
And where were you taken?
To several foster homes for the next 4 years, and I'd say about 10, and they were right in the vicinity of Lac La Biche, and they're all to white people. They had farms, cattle, things like that, and they put us to work, working for them. And they had children of their own, but they were treated quite differently than the way we were treated. And I can remember, you know, nights when we had to sleep outside in barns while their own children slept inside after working. And we weren't fed at a table. We were brought food to us. And it wasn't the same food that the children would eat with their parents at the table. But I ran away from those places. When I went back to my parents, after 12 years in a white world, I'd become alienated from my own people. I'd forgotten my language. I was not the same Lawrence that left there at 6, that returned at 18. My parents were afraid of me because all of a sudden I represented everything that they feared. And the thing that they feared most was anything that was white. Because it caused them pain and shame, fear, put fear in their hearts. And so I was rejected. And I came to Edmonton. I didn't have an identity, no language, no mother or father, no brothers and sisters, no God, because I'd lost them. I took a razor blade and I tried to take my own life. I didn't know what else to do.
At Poundmaker, the people take part in one of the most ancient rituals, the Sweat Lodge. For thousands of years, the lodge has brought comfort and purification to those who enter. The fire represents the sun, which gives life to all forms. The stones represent Mother Earth and the unending nature of the Great Spirit.
As I enter the Sweat Lodge, I am part of the circle of life and wish to be cleansed of the storm of terrors. I feel spiritual ties to all creation. As I walk out and all is clear, that is my medicine.
I do care for my brothers and sisters. I love them. That's why I learned. That's why I learned through this program how to love them, how to understand them.
When you say brothers and sisters, does that mean us? Like, are you referring
The
to
whole,
people
the group I meet, like the group in here, the group out there, I started opening up to see what I say. I heard when we pray, or I pray, I just sort of, I consider us as my brothers and sisters.
I heard the word love. You mean to say that you really love us all?
I wouldn't say I love you all, but I'm working on how to love each individual of you, one of you. I'm not saying I'm going to love the world, but I'm trying to make my hard work, my whole thing work towards you people would understand me. Because I don't want, no, I've been hurting people so many years and I don't want to hurt them anymore. I want them to understand. I want you to understand me who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I want to understand who you are.
Came from a large family and we were really poor. Because my dad drank, eh? I don't know, we had a miserable childhood. It has scarred me, you know? Like, I've lived in fear. Like, I came to a point in my life where I just didn't want to live no more. Like, the world just looked too ugly. Then I had two daughters. I thought, what will they think? You know, when they grow up and they found out that, you know, their mom committed suicide, what will my family go through? I had a hard time understanding my identity and who I was. I hated the fact that I was an Indian. I thought, well, maybe this is happening to me because I'm an Indian. One evening I'd been up for about 4 days, and we were partying over at at a friend's place, and we took a taxi to go downtown to the Empire, and we were just getting out of the taxi, and all of a sudden the taxi door opens, and there my mom was standing, you know. I got out and I was really surprised. I looked at her and I said, Mom, I said, what are you doing here? And she had tears in her eyes. She looked at me and she said, what are you doing to yourself? She said, come, I'll take you home. And I said, no, you know, I can't go back home with you. So I went running down the street and I hid in this apartment building. And, you know, like, that kind of jerked me back to reality. And I thought, you know, like, I'm not only destroying myself, but there are people who care about me. And I guess in my own, like, I was so obsessed with the drugs and the alcohol that I forgot about these people who loved me. You know, I can't let these people down. I can't let my children down. Although at the time I never thought much of myself. But now, like, you know, to this day, I really believe that people love you back to good health.
What makes it really hard for me is that I've never seen love in my life. I've never seen it in my childhood days. I've never had my mom come up to hug me. Maybe the odd time she'd come and put her arm around me and tell me, be strong, you know. The only time I've seen really love is coming to here. I was in a boarding school in my younger days. And when I returned back home, there's lots of alcohol in the family. I can't forget how it was, you know. I'd be sitting outside and my dad would be inside. He'd be swearing at my mom, calling me a illegitimate kid. I couldn't figure out why he didn't accept me. My other real dad, he deserted me when I was 3. These things, they're still in my mind. I have to bring them out and learn to deal with them. I'm a full-grown man. These things, they're beaten into me. I tried to drown them with alcohol, and it only led me to a lot of trouble. I asked the Great Spirits to take them from me. I believe that He watches me. I believe that if I show Him I want to go the right way, He'll help me. Someday I'll be strong enough to overcome everything.
Indians were on this land and the white people came from across the ocean. They came here in their boats with their Bible, with their priests and missionaries. And they wanted to translate the Bible into Cree, and they didn't know an equivalent word for sin. So they went to the elders and asked the elders, tell us what is the equivalent of sin in your language, in Cree. The Indians didn't have a word for sin. The closest the elders could return with the word, the closest one was Pastawan. And our children are our future. And when you shatter those lives of the children, when you shatter our future, that is Pastawan. That's a sin. Ambition to me means to be able to lead a good and useful life, to be useful to my people, to find peace and contentment by sharing. That's ambition to me. That's the value of ambition to my people. We're champions, that we have that ability to make it in this world and still retain our own society, our own culture, our own beliefs, and our own values.
Hey, 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 hey.
Since Poundmakers Lodge began, hundreds of people have walked away with a different vision of themselves and a feeling of wanting to know more about the greatness and truth of the old traditions and values. While there will still be hardship to face, they have made a step forward away from the misery of alcoholism. Over the years, not only have hundreds of people recovered their lives, but in time have offered their love and understanding to others, both at Poundmaker and in their home communities.
You are the same people who fought so well and bravely on Cut Knife Hill. But you are going to have to fight again, the hardest kind of fight. You must fight yourselves and this new way of thinking that we are less than they are. Because it is not true. Right now, I am prouder than I ever was before that I am a Cree. We will come through this as we have through other troubles. There is a strength in us that we ourselves have not yet recognized. And one day, we will find a place in the world for our people again. I tell everyone here, that is how it will be.
I come from Obima. There's a lot of hatred I've built up towards the place because people there, they seem to not realize what alcohol is doing to our people. I'm still young and I want more out of life than what I've had in the past 8 years. I've been drinking since I was 12, dropped out of school because of alcohol. When I turned 16, I went to jail. And being in jail,
Taste of apple wine. You know my brother drank himself through many kinds of bars. He lived on dreams and empty schemes of owning fancy cars. When the dealer came to him, he signed upon the line.
What did I learn about drinking from my dad? I learned to drink, get drunk, pass out. That's what I learned from my grandfather also. And what did the first Indians learn about alcohol from the first white men? It was, here, have more booze so we can get your land. Here, have more booze so that we can get your woman. Here, have more booze so that we can get your fur.
The horrifying results of a long chapter of racism, oppression, rejection, betrayal, and of great loss. Thousands of our people live in the cities of our country and are not welcome there, nor are they welcome at home. They live in the shadow of two worlds.
Apple wine stole my brother from those he loved the most. I see him almost everywhere, looking like a ghost. I asked about his failing health. He says, oh, I feel fine. But could you spare $1 for a taste?
I grew up bitterness. I was very defensive towards people. Last year, I was put away for 18 months. And I'm just getting out. And I'm nervous about being on my own. At times, like I'm so confused, I don't know where to turn to.
Our people, the original owners of the land, have been displaced by the newcomers and for many generations have been forced to live in an environment of self-destruction and despair. Laws in the Indian Act have robbed generations of their identity and culture. We are now living